Hello, my fellow Americans. It's a sad day for me to come to you. In my one lifetime, I have seen 2 assassination attempts on Republican presidents. First one was Reagan, and now Trump. Now, from what I watch on the media, the actions of this child, from what we know, had nothing to do with the politics of today. So I'm not really sure what this child's motivation was. And a lot of kids are saying, well, he was heavily bullied. He was bullied because he always dressed in camouflage and stuff like that. There's got to be more to it than that. There's never been a history when a child did that, went after a president, assured he's going to die one way or another, whether his motives are understood or not. And that breaks my heart. But I really don't buy he was bullied, so he tried to kill the president. I don't think so. I don't buy it. There was some other underlying motivation. Maybe, well, I know the woke movement in the schools has caused more bullying and racism and separation of the kids than it's united any of them. A small group of kids are going around the schools dressed like they're at an ICP concert. If you are old enough to know who ICP is, Insane Clown Posse, big fan from the old days. But that's who they look like when they go to school. Like they're going to some kind of concert. They're not going to school because they're not being taught anything but ideology and politics these days. And both are being skewed and misinterpreted. So, if he was bullied, he probably was not bullied by the normal kids. And I say normal, meaning, your average kid who's there to learn. There because the parents said if they don't get good grades, they're going to get in trouble, or they're not going to get their PlayStations or whatever new technology they're wanting. There's so many avenues I can go down to and blame for what this child did. But I'm going to bet, let's put it that way, that had a lot to do with the woke movement. Because with the woke movement came protections for a small few. And no protection from that group for the rest of the children or the rest of the people. I know that's been my experience with it. My husband was interviewed 2 separate times, for a job at Lowe's, I think it was, or Home Depot. Hard to tell, he applied to both, I don't remember. But the first time they interviewed him, they asked him a few questions about his identity. And he said, well, I'm a man. He's old school. He's an older man. He's almost 50 years old. So, of course, his nouns and pronouns or whatever he's a he. And they told him he was not a good candidate, even though he had all the necessary skills they were looking for. He could operate forklifts, had done it for years in Texas before we moved here. Understood shipping, handling, distribution, how to properly unload trucks, handling large equipment, And yet they told him, no, you're the wrong candidate, because he didn't have any identifying pronouns. Well, they called him back about a month later. And again, same interview process. So if you're a regular person, you're not part of this woke occult or ideology, but just a regular human being trying to get a job, you're going to be discriminated against, like my husband was. And that's a fact, because all these companies are buying into this, because our president decided it was okay for school boards, teachers, and principals to overstep boundaries, take parents' rights away to know what's going on with their children, especially when it comes to medical issues, and encourage them to take sterilizing drugs without their parents' knowledge or consent. And that is still happening in a lot of the schools. Not around here. They actually had to close their school doors because they didn't have enough students. All the parents here, except for the poorest of the poorest, they had to send their kids to school. But everybody else was like, nope, I've got internet, and my child's got a laptop, we'll homeschool. And the government even threatened to take away our education funding because our schools did not have enough attendance. And our wise governor, as she can be known by, at least to me, said, no, we'll sue you. They can't put their kids in school because they do not want their children taught ideology they're too young to understand, and that we disagree with. I come from a heavy Christian community, and to have the kids walk out of the school because children are coming in dressed as animals, saying, I'm a cat, I'm a dog, and disrupting everything about class. Their teachers coming in to school with this, I am a flag of sexuality. And I'm sorry, the parents said no. Now in bigger cities where they have a very large population in their schools, they saw, like in Texas, they saw a decline in enrollment in the public schools, the facilities, but saw an extremely high increase in parents who are homeschooling their children. And taking a parent's rights away is not going to help the child in any way unless that parent is abusing that child. And if you're a parent who forces puberty blockers on your children, thinking like they told my daughter's kids, or my daughter actually, ADHD medication is going to quell the... No, we saw suicide attempts in our family and our children. So when parents started saying no to that, they came up with this woke propaganda. And my two children who have children of school age are homeschooling. They will not put their children in a public school anymore because they're not taught math, they're not taught science, they're not taught just proper speaking. They're not getting an education. They're getting a political agenda fed to them with an ideology that they don't understand. And it's not right. And I assure you, this was the big player. If this child was on puberty blockers, it absolutely explains the mental deterioration. Because that does the hormones they're being deprived of are the hormones that help the brain grow. You cannot mess just because science says yes you can, because now all the science says no, it's not safe for kids. And no, you cannot reverse it. It's not reversible. And now we have how many hundreds of thousands of kids that have taken these drugs, self-mutilated their own bodies, all under the guidance of their education system, which is being pushed through our own president, Biden. And we all know it. He's come out and said it. Kind when he speaks without, the constant breakdown of his brain because of dementia. But I promise you, if this child was being bullied, he was more than likely a heterosexual child. If he was being bullied, he had no safe place like the woke kids have. It's not allowed. It's not an equal. This group that says they're woke, they don't care about equality. All they care about is getting their fix of kids. These are adults pushing it on children. And I'm totally against this. I always have been. I didn't even know until just a couple years ago that this was happening in public schools. That children were being medically treated without their parents' knowledge. That pornography was being pushed into the schools. I didn't know about this until maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. Why? Because all my children are grown. And I do have children that are stuck in the public school system. I've got one granddaughter who, she says, Granny, I don't know if I can do this. And I said, why? I mean, she's looking to go and get her law degree. And she's got the grades in school already to do that. But she says, Granny, it's become so dangerous to go to school for anything because you're always going to have 5 kids out of your whole class that are going to make sure the teacher is unable to teach anything. And I was, what? Really? And she said, yeah, if we speak up against it, we get in trouble. I was like, okay, wow, things have changed. But this is a high school student I'm talking to, not, I'm sorry. This makes me furious, beyond angry. I'm not going to say I'm not a violent person, because I have used violence to defend myself from physical attacks. I've never gone after anybody just to hit them. And from what I see all over YouTube, our government, no, let me take that back. The Democrats, they're destroying their own party because they've gotten rid of all their values. They have no values. They're supporting trafficking by letting illegals, immigrants into our country, by not just letting them in, but by bringing them in. And this is wrong. Terribly wrong. All those immigrants, the real immigrants, that have gone through the proper process to get here, work hard, pay taxes, educate themselves, they're being shoved aside and treated just like an American citizen. And they're saying it sucks, just like we're saying it. And these people that Biden just brought in, that were given ID cards, filled out paperwork for free medical and food stamps and checks every month, even without an address. They give them a card. Don't need an address if you're getting a card. Threw away their IDs, and they're not here to become citizens. Nobody in their right mind comes to America anymore to be an American citizen, except people who from other countries are told and believe how great it is here. The people that came across the south border, those people didn't come here because they think America is great. They came here because they were told they'd get a free ride and the American taxpayers were going to pay for it. Now, Mr. Trump, that brings me to my first question for you. Because you're going to have to get back up on that podium. And you're a fighter, so I know you will. Thank God. But, my first question, are you going to mess around with this wall thing again? Or are you really going to attack the one thing that keeps them wanting to come in illegally? Makes them want to come here illegally. Are you going to take away all the free benefits for them so you can reduce our tax burden, our country's tax burden? Are you going to do that? That's what I want to know, Mr. Trump. With that, our crime goes back down. You take away the motivation of these people to come in here and get a free check, free food, free housing, free whatever. And now in California and, well, our West Coast from end to end, they can go anywhere, they can kill and not even face crimes. They have put businesses out of business. And California is prosecuting businesses for complaining about the theft. That they've said, oh no, it's legal. No, it's not. I don't care if they're going to go against the laws, the federal laws that say no. But sorry, I have a hard time calling him a president. Mr. Biden, absolute disrespect meant. You have not showed the American citizens any respect. You have gone after our children. I'm glad they're removing you, but what they're wanting to put in your place is worse. Kamala Harris, really? You're going to put this woman in. This is a woman who works with the AOC, as she calls herself, to dismantle laws, and says she's no longer going to allow prosecution of theft of stores, for breaking and entering in homes, but she will prosecute us for complaining about it or fighting back. That's what you're going to get if you put Kamala in there. I don't pay that close of attention to the congressional hearings, honestly. To me, it's a dog and pony show. It sounds good, looks good, but in truth, it's just BS. Because they will prove everything that they're saying when they're going through these hearings, like with the AOC. And she had this long written doctrine of what crimes she would not prosecute. Rape, child rape, murder. If an illegal commits a crime, say me and my husband are here having a nice dinner or whatever, if we're lucky enough to have food this month, if we're sitting here and an illegal immigrant breaks through my door, now in my state, I still have the right to shoot them. And believe me, I will. My husband and I both practice our shooting capabilities, because is becoming more clear that we're going to need them. But, like in California, where 4 illegal men, illegal immigrants, broke into a couple's home, killed them both, threw their bodies out, and squatted in the house and kept all of their belongings, used their bank accounts, used their credit cards, and they're dead. And they're not prosecuting them. They're not even making them get out of the house. They're not prosecuting them because AOC says they don't have to prosecute them. Now, Florida is taking the laws back into their hands, and I'm glad to see it. I want to see more states following Florida's lead, because our government, when they brought in that 3.5 million illegals, they brought them in. They brought in human traffickers by the hundreds. They brought in rapists, murderers. Carjackings have gone up substantially. Attacks against Americans who are told, don't fight back. Take the beating. You're an American citizen. You can do it. Yeah, as an American citizen says, I don't have to do it. I can fight back. And that's what I'm doing right now, right here. And I know because of what I'm putting out here, YouTube is going to censor it. YouTube has gone so overboard with censorship. You can't open your mouth if you don't agree with what YouTube wants you to agree with. I have rejected videos they put up for me to watch, saying I'm not interested, yet they keep putting the same garbage back up on my feed to watch. Now, if I comment on those, they want to censor me. That's illegal. I am tired of seeing men's wangs in front of children in parades on YouTube. But I can't say I disagree with it. It's considered hate speech by YouTube. Not by law. Not even by policy. But their algorithm says it's hate speech. No, it's not. It's called freedom of speech. And YouTube, if you don't like Americans using your channel, shut it down. Because we are probably the biggest user group you have. Yet you want to censor what we see. I get enough of that garbage on TV. People can't even say the word shit. It's poop. If I say poop, it's the same difference. But the algorithm doesn't like the word shit. Now, if this kid was bullied so badly, it's because of this kind of garbage. We're being told you have to use the right pronouns. Those people change their pronouns quicker than they change their hair color. 95% of them look like they just walked out of an ICP concert. I'm gonna the deep end again.